Hello, this is Lysha Holmes of Key Recruitment, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Katy Green of Centred Excellence. And Katy's somebody that I used to work with many moons ago, so I know who you are and what you do. But for those who aren't familiar with your business and your background, please can you give us a biography?
Oh, well, thank you very much. What a lovely intro. Yes. So, hi everyone. So I'm Katy Green, and yeah, my background. So I worked at a recruitment business. Some people may or may not know it, Aspire. Started as B. Farrow Jones, PFJ, Aspire. We have many names, many characteristics. And I worked there for 15 years, actually. It was, 15 years I was there. And probably what's most interest to people listening is that I was MD of that London operation, where I managed about 65 fee earners across 12 different disciplines. So outsourced function, perm, temp, contract. We actually had a separate business that used to work for one of our digital clients where we had an outsourced function for them. So my experience in recruitment, I think I've been fairly lucky to have quite a colourful background, because we acquired a couple of businesses, we sold businesses, bedded 2 of those into London, changed databases. So I've really been blessed with having such a breadth of experience in recruitment that it's really lent me well for what I do now, which is about helping recruitment businesses to scale their business, to grow. So for them to get the most out of their business and to be able to increase their profits quickly over about 6 months, 6 to 12 months.
Absolutely fantastic. And that's obviously, I came to one of your Rocket sessions. I came to a couple, and actually, I'm still in touch with a few people from that. So for anyone that is interested to know more, we will obviously have all your links to this YouTube video, and we'll share that across social media. So you're definitely well positioned. Obviously, we knew each other because I worked at, it was V. Farrow Jones and then became PFJ. So it's wonderful that you've joined us here on YouTube. And I think that you've got so many insights because you've worked through so many different elements of a business. That's why you can give a broad experience, like you say. So given the breadth of recruitment companies coming to you as Centred Excellence, what habits have you witnessed during COVID for those businesses that are doing things well, and then maybe habits that they're not doing so well?
Not doing. Yeah. Okay. So it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because I'm going to sort of like go back on I will answer your question in terms of, first of all, I just want to talk about how, if you like, patterns or habits form, because the reason that people have habits, so a habit is essentially like a program pattern of behavior, right? And it's formed from our thoughts and our beliefs. And our thoughts and our beliefs, well, a number of them are actually formed unconsciously. So you're not even aware that you have them. So in many situations, it means that we work on autopilot. And the thing for people is to start to get curious about is, are my thoughts and beliefs empowering or are they disempowering? And I'll get to why this works and how this works in recruitment. So what do I mean by that? Well, a quick kind of biology lesson. So you have the mind as 2 parts of the mind, which is your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. And your conscious mind is a bit like the captain of the ship. So that is only, by the way, 10% of your mind, whereas 90% of your mind is your unconscious mind, or otherwise known as your subconscious mind. And your captain of your ship is your conscious mind. So that sends a thought to your unconscious mind, who then goes about making it happen for you. And you also have something which is called your reticular activating system, and that sits, it's like a little antennae, and that goes about. So let's say you think a thought, and maybe that's a thought or a habit that's linked to something, either empowering or disempowering. So let's say that in the current market, one of my thoughts might be a limiting belief. It might actually be disempowering for me, and that belief might be that this is not the right time for me to call my clients. So that thought goes from my conscious mind, my reticular activating system goes to look out for evidence to back up that thought or that belief, to essentially to prove to me that it's right. And so what happens is, whatever you think, whatever you focus on, wherever the energy goes or where your attention goes, the energy flows. So if I'm thinking that, then the only reality I will get back into my world is that this is not a good time to call my clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So this, and the reason I'm sharing that is because when you, then going back to the question that you asked me, Lysha, which was, you know, if you like, what have you witnessed? What are good behaviours, or what's working well and what isn't for people? Is that there is or has been an element where, and again, a lot of this is unconscious, but people don't realise that their thoughts are so programmed, or their beliefs are so programmed, that for some people they've been in this state of I call it shock, but it's not shock, but it's just sort of in this shutdown state. Let's call it fear, which is, you know, there's a recession going on. You know, I can't call my clients right now. They don't want to hear from me right now. You know, this is not the right time to sell to people. How would I feel if somebody sold to me? I wouldn't like it. You know, it's not appropriate. People have got their teams furloughed, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so this, it stops you in your tracks, because now the fact is, by the way, it's not the truth, but to us it is the truth, because a belief is a truth. And so people believe that to be the case, and that then potentially puts a barrier up or stops them from making that call to that client and serving that client and giving support and help to that client, maybe at a time when actually they really, really need it. So, and you know, one of the things that well, certainly, and I'm sure you've heard it, one of the big things that always came up with our clients, a complaint was, you know, recruiters, you only ever call me when you want something from me. So surely now more than ever is the best time to be proving to our clients that we are not about just calling you because you've got a vacancy and that's all we want, because we want something from you, that actually we can serve you at a level that you're not even aware our skill set has the ability to do, but it does, because I know most recruitment businesses and most recruitment business owners are incredible. The amount of skills that they have in their toolbox, in their teams, is unbelievable. But we don't shout about it, because a client just thinks that I'm paying you to just find me that candidate, you know, whiz over that CV to me, and your job's really quite easy and I pay you this fee. And we all know that's absolute BS.
Absolutely. It's not transactional. It's much more than that. It goes on a much deeper level. We can talk to you about what trends are in the market, what skill gaps you've got, talk about salaries, we can talk about retention, onboarding. God, the list goes on and on and on. But until you pick up the phone and have that conversation, you're not going to know.
And how often do we do that? How often do we do that?
You talk yourself out of it.
Well, you do talk yourself out of it, or you're so caught up because I've got a brief and I've got to deliver on that brief. You don't necessarily have the time to do that. So going back to your question, the things, so I'm seeing for some people that there are limiting beliefs, or there are, I'm going to call them disempowering thoughts, maybe untruths that people are believing that are stopping them from really accelerating their business, because now's the opportunity to do that. And then there are other businesses that are going, okay, actually, maybe this is the time for me to re-engineer my business. Maybe this is a time for me to be reborn. Maybe this is the opportunity that everyone has with COVID, because there are positives out of it, to actually sit down and say, what do I want my business to be? How do I want to emerge? How do I want to transform?
And how do I want to be perceived by the clients, but also for your employees, your internal customers? What are they, when they sit and think about why they want to work here, the ones that we want to take us on the journey forward, what do they look like? So it's interesting, isn't it?
So I mean, it's a great question to ask, because you know that I think I think we act so unconsciously that actually sometimes people aren't really stopping to observe themselves to say, is this an action today that's going to move my business forward? Or am I potentially being caught in this trap of procrastination or untruths that aren't serving me? Because our beliefs directly correspond to our results.
Of course they do. And of course, one of the key things of centered excellence is the growth mindset. Those are the people you want to attract. So it all comes down to that fundamental belief of that you are going to grow out of this and you're going to learn something from it, rather than those that get caught in the treacle almost of, you know, well, we're in a recession, so no one's going to hire and we can't hire ourselves and we're going to have to do this. And it's like you talk, and it is all, I'm a huge believer in the power of the subconscious mind, as you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, the success recipe, yes, I mean, your strategy is important, of course it is, but actually your strategy doesn't change in a recession to what it is, you know, in a good time, which is, you know, you sell to the right people at the right time in the right way, you know, at the right price point. And so that recipe, that formula doesn't really change. And the biggest route to success is to take action, JFDI it, to take action and have a mindset that is in alignment with where you want to go.
Most definitely. So I mean, I think it's such a huge subject that one YouTube is not going to do it justice, but it's certainly something that I subscribe to, that's for sure.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, so now you've talked about the 80-20 rule. So I think you put out some marketing that sort of the 20% of the sort of businesses that managed to grow successfully during the recession. So what strategies did they implement to ensure that they elevated themselves above the other 80%?
Well, probably, I mean, it follows on, doesn't it, in many ways in what we're saying, which is about success comes from two things. Yeah, your mindset and taking action, small steps every single day that towards that goal that you want to get to. So it starts with getting very clear about what is it that I want to achieve, you know. So going back to what we were saying, if it's about your business, then it's almost like, okay, so what is the business that I want to grow? So how do I want to emerge? Who do I want to be? What do we want to stand for now? So what's that business about? And then getting clear on what that goal is, or what it is that you want to create, or what it is that you want to achieve. And then when you're clear on what it is that you want to achieve and you've got that goal, then the big question to ask yourself, because again, this is where people potentially let's say, I don't want to say go wrong, but let's say miss a piece of the puzzle, is the big thing about where you want to go is, let's say you set a goal and that goal is to, because it is, let's say it's harder times, I've got this goal, I want to achieve it. But right now, who's the person that you are? And are they somebody that has achieved that goal before? Because if you haven't worked in a recession before, or you haven't achieved that target or that figure, then actually there are changes that you need to make to yourself. You need to become the person who is going to achieve that goal. So we talk about it about, you know, who's that new character? Like, who is it that I need to become to achieve that goal? Because if I take the old Katy that maybe has those limiting beliefs, maybe has that mindset that's not supportive of that goal, but I've got my goal, but the Katy and the mindset is here. If the two aren't in aligned, I'm not going to achieve my goal. No. So who do I need to become? And really down to the point of view of, you know, what does she look like? How does she walk? How does she talk? What are her thoughts? What are her fears? What are her beliefs? What does she stand for? How does she start her day? So you want to get into quite a lot of detail about who that person is, who that new character is, and start to really embody it.
So it's that level of self-awareness to be able to do that, though, because let's face it, a lot of people don't want to be introspective and say, well, this is my limitation at the moment. But also to do what you're talking about requires some serious investment of time, and potentially, you know, bringing in a business like yours to say, this is what I need to do to get from here where I am now. I know I need to get there, but I don't know how to do it.
Well, I mean, it could be, yeah, of course. That is something that we can help people on. I think, you know, also I know that what happens quite frequently when we work with people is the skills are already in that individual. So all the people that we work with are ambitious, go-getting, I would say, recruitment business owners. So they have got like a wealth of skills, a wealth of expertise. What happens is that, and this is due to experience, they just sort of end up in I call it like the valley, the well of despair. And they're in a point where it's sort of like you only know as much as you know. And so it's like, right, if I want to get a different result, I've got to do something differently. And so you reach a ceiling in where you are, and to get to that next level, you're right, you've got to get help in a sense, but the help is more about how. And that's the big thing that I think makes the difference for people. It's not necessarily, oh, Katy's going to give me loads of ideas, and she's going to suddenly give me even more ideas about how to run my business. They've probably already got those ideas. What they need is the practical steps of, how do I actually go and make that happen in my business? How do I actually take that idea and embed that, implement that in my team or in my workforce? And so really, it's more about the how. And same thing with a new character. If I, gave you a step-by-step, here's what you do, and you followed it, you'd be able to do it like that, as would anyone else. So it's not a intellect or a skill, it's more the how that we enable people to do. And that's what most people need, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And that's not unique to recruitment business owners. I think that's just anyone that's looking to achieve their goal in life, isn't it? But we are talking
just
specifically just to understand what that how is. How do I get to that? I don't know how to do it.
Give me that formula. Give me that step-by-step process, because once I've got that, they fly. And that's what we see happening with people that work with us. People say, wow, my business was here, and now all of a sudden I've done a 400% increase year on year. But in fact, what you talk about makes lots of sense, but I just wasn't doing it.
And like you say, it's really quite simple things, isn't it? But I think
it's really complicated.
No, but I think a lot of it comes down to, I think you used the word earlier on, it's about being brave and just being a bit bold about what you need to do. So obviously the landscape of work has changed forever. That's one of the massive positive things to come out of COVID. That we're seeing that, I don't know if there's a percentage figure out there yet in terms of how many companies are actually going to offer that virtual sort of remote working. So what would your top tips be for business owners who are going to now be managing a remote workforce as opposed to all being in an office at the same time?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this from I guess my own learn, and from what we're seeing with our clients in our community, which is, if you have people working remotely and they're used to that buzz of a sales floor, let's say, and they're used to that kind of energy and momentum also supporting them throughout the day, because it's quite different, isn't it, when you work from home versus being in that kind of office. And a lot of recruitment businesses have such a wonderful culture. So I would say one of the top things would be about communication and community. So making sure that you really create that culture, even though it might be remotely, it might be on Zoom, it might be on Skype, that you encourage a high level of communication between you and your team on a weekly basis, and that you create that real community, that team feel, albeit through different tools that you are going to use. And in fact, Nikki and I did our podcast this week on our on the Recruitment Business Accelerator Facebook group, and we were talking about, mantra that we now have with our teams or with our clients is Zoom first, call second. So it used to be, didn't it? It was always like, phone first, email second, but now it's like Zoom, because you can interact with each other and it feels just as good. You can do some really clever things. You can have breakout rooms. You can get, lots of interaction going. You can use music. You can
play games. You can do quizzes. You can do all sorts on it. I agree with you totally. I mean, I would just say that I think, nothing replaces being around other human beings. But if you can't do that, this is the next best thing, there's no question. And then the third thing would then be on the phone. So I think communication has been a resounding sort of unanimous fundamental principle for all the YouTubes that I've done so far, from people like yourself who are knowledgeable, who have got a pivoted view of what's happening. So not just one company perspective, but you can see that actually those that are doing it well are communicating regularly. It's so simple.
Mm. And the other thing I'd say on the communication is, because the plan has probably changed. If you think about it, what, let's say, key success factors or KPIs, whatever people call them, but your goal may well have changed because of the current marketplace. And so bearing that in mind, it's important that expectation, that change in expectation for your team is communicated to them. So as an individual, people are motivated by, what's in it for me. Well, there's two things that are important to them. Obviously, one is what's in it for me, but also their values. And so it's important that you make it clear to the individual what's expected of them in the new work from home workforce, whatever you want to call it, and also in the current climate. So what does success look like? What does good look like? How do I know I'm doing well in my job now? Because maybe that's changed. How am I measured? And therefore, if you set all of those things out and they have a clear expectation with that individual, and they have a frequent one-to-one to make sure that they're being kept up to date, help those people reset, then it's clear for me how I'm going to celebrate that success. Because people, well, in any business, but certainly if you think about the majority of people in recruitment, it is about success, isn't it? It's about that goal of getting that placement, or
it's output led, isn't it, ultimately? But we can celebrate success in other ways. Like you say, it's about those that maybe are being creative, that are doing something different. They're creating webinars, they're creating a bigger community. But I think it's ultimately, we are success led people. That's why we're in this job. We want to achieve goals and share success. So I think managing expectations is, again, a very simple way of sort of keeping people on track without them feeling like they're totally, abandoned.
Yeah, I think so. Not to be underestimated, because again, one of the biggest, if you like, complaints that I used to hear was, oh, my manager sets, one-to-one for me, or sets objectives, and never follows up.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it? Never been more important, and as we all know, that's the key of why people either stay in jobs or why they don't. So ultimately for people watching, if you've got good people in place, and key people have never been more important. People that are happy to do that business development and understand your values, share your the principles of your business, then just those simple things: communication, manage expectations, understanding people's goals, understanding where people are at. It sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose it does. And we all know that, when you're in the moment, things can land on your lap, can't they? But it's making sure you structure that. So setting times in your diary to make sure that, you keep, they're like your golden priorities. Your one-to-ones with your team, they're like the same as if you were having a meeting with a client, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So it really is making sure that they're looked after, like you're saying, that there's plenty of communication.
Oh, real golden nuggets in there. Oh, Katy, it's been absolutely wonderful, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to speak to us. We really appreciate it, and it's lovely. And I love how you've coordinated everything with your pink and the butterflies. I do love the butterflies.
You see my butterfly? Can you still see them?
We can see them. They look beautiful.
Yeah, they're lovely.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous. I see it on all your marketing, and I think they just look. Are they stuck on? They just look beautiful.
They look 3D, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
It's special wallpaper that has that effect. Yeah. So
you could do interior designs. Lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
you're welcome.